those in need. With me today I've got Angie Nicholas, who's our candidate out here in Te Atatū and in this electorate, and obviously Simeon Brown, who's our spokesperson for Auckland, as well as transport issues and other things as well. Just a couple of opening remarks. I mean, the first thing I'd say is it's been good to see the Ministry of Education come around to our way of thinking, to actually give local schools the discretion to make their decisions whether their schools are opened or closed, based off their understanding of the local community and what is the best decision for them. I think what we've seen over yesterday and again today is a new leader, same Labour, same old tired ideas, and that's that is not fundamentally addressing our underlying causes of inflation. And today, again, more so than ever, we've had new data come out to say that wages are just not keeping pace with inflation. Wages growing just over 4%, inflation over 7%, just means everyone's going backward. Your money doesn't buy what it used to do, and nobody can get ahead. So with that, happy to take any questions you may have.
Chris Luxon, what did you make of the government's cost of living announcement today?
I think it was really underwhelming. Again, as I said, it's a new leader with exactly the same team coming up with exactly the same old tired ideas. What New Zealand needs is a proper economic plan to tackle the underlying causes of inflation.
When was the last time you did a food shop at the supermarket?
Just on the weekend, yes.
How did you find the cost of food prices?
Look, there's no doubt everybody's experiencing massive inflation in food. You know, when you get to a block of cheese costing anywhere from $16 to $20, it is a reality of it. And every New Zealander can see it. You know, food prices are up over 11.3%, the highest they have been in well over 30 years. So, that's the issue that we have here in New Zealand, is that we need to be able to get to the underlying causes of what's creating this inflation, because half of it is actually coming from New Zealand, from within New Zealand, the other half is international.
Would lowering the food prices be a priority under a Christopher Luxon national government?
What is an absolute priority is to have a proper inflation fighting plan so we can actually get inflation under control and can reduce the cost of living crisis for people. And what that means is not passing costs on to businesses that lead to higher prices, making sure we free up our immigration settings so we can power up our businesses and grow our economy, stop the wasteful spending, let Kiwis keep more of their own money in their back pocket, and importantly get the Reserve Bank focused on getting inflation back under 3% again.
In terms of things that are having an immediate impact, though, are you saying that you wouldn't enact this kind of policy?
Well, what I'd say to you is what we really need to do is get to an underlying plan, an economic plan. We've been talking about it now for over a year to say, look, we can do all these stopgap band-aid economic measures, as we've seen, cost of living payments, but it's not getting to the underlying causes of what's driving inflation here in New Zealand. And that's why we need a proper economic management plan. And sadly, what we're seeing is, yes, new Labour leader, same team, same ideas, same outcomes, poor outcomes that New Zealanders have been getting.
Would you support this kind of measure if you're in government?
What I'd support is us making sure we have a proper, comprehensive, underlying economic plan that fights inflation. Well, that's where I'd be focusing on, because as the Prime Minister, you need to be able to focus on economics and you need to be able to get our settings right. Let's be really clear what's happening. We have really stubbornly high levels of inflation. It's now been at elevated levels, over 7.2% for the last 9 months. As a result, interest rates are having to go up, and they have to go up higher because the government hasn't got a plan and it's not managing spending well. Now, with interest rates going higher, we end up with a risk of a recession, with the economy going backwards and shrinking, and with that comes greater risk of unemployment as well. So you have to be able to have a proper, comprehensive economic plan to deal with those issues. Otherwise, it gets painful and the options get worse as you go forward. And that's what we've been calling now for a year. Control costs, make sure you free up immigration, cut the wasteful spending, let people keep more of their own money in their own pockets so they can navigate the cost of living crisis. We trust them more than we trust Grant Robertson and Chris Hipkins to do that job, and make sure we get the Reserve Bank focused on a single mandate.
And do you agree with this, it's essentially a fuel subsidy, given the government's climate change ambitions? Is there some kind of mismatch there, and especially off the back of these floods?
Well, what is the utter mismatch is what's the economic strategy and plan that we need to drive and support New Zealanders at the moment. And what we're missing is a comprehensive economic plan to be able to get things done, to be able to help people get ahead, to be able to help them and support them through this cost of living crisis. What we're seeing is just endless, rinky-dink sort of band-aid economic sort of ideas, rather than a comprehensive economic management plan.
So on that note, what are your thoughts about the extended fuel tax cuts, road user charges and half price public transport?
Again, what we're saying very clearly is what we want to see from government, when you need to focus on the cost of living and how we reduce that for people, is a proper comprehensive plan that tackles the causes of that. Because It's interest rate payments that have gone through the roof. I've been in budgeting services this last week. It's people with good jobs on average incomes now, if they're lucky enough to own a home, with their mortgages going from 2.5% to 6.5%, and that's because government hasn't controlled government spending in many ways. The second thing is it's actually people with rising levels of rents. Rents are up $150 under this government. That's got really, really tough for people. Those costs have been passed on to tenants from those landlords. And you've seen food prices go up over 11.3%. So we can react to all the individual issues on the surface, but underneath we actually have to have a proper comprehensive economic plan, and that's what we're about.
Is extending subsidies for a fossil fuel really the best option amid a climate emergency?
The absolute best option is to have an inflation fighting plan like ours that we've been talking about now for a year. Control the costs, free up immigration settings, cut wasteful spending, give people back more of their own cash, focus on the single mandate of restoring inflation below 3%.
What do you think about the Minister for Auckland? Do you think we need one?
I think it's we have our own spokesperson for Auckland and Simeon Brown. It's a role that I created when I did my own reshuffle, and the reason is that I wanted a bridge between central and local government, in particular into our biggest city. In the same way, I also have a portfolio called regional development, which is about regional infrastructure development and linking central and local government together, which sits with Simon Watts in our local government portfolio. So from my perspective, I would, in the way that I would be using it in government, is as that bridge to make sure that we have good alignment between our largest city, which has some unique infrastructure challenges, and also our central government person responsible for that, in this case Simeon. So that's how we would be using it. How it's planned to be used by this government, I have no idea. My only takeaway from yesterday was it's the same people doing exactly the same things, delivering exactly the same ideas. So you can change the Labour leader, but at the end of the day, what is that doing for people who are struggling with rapidly rising rents, rapidly rising food prices, rapidly rising mortgage rates as well? So that's where our focus is going to be. We're going to be a government that gets things done. And what does that mean? Reducing the cost of living, increasing incomes for all, restoring law and order, and better health and education.
What do you make of the government's response to the flooding?
Look, there clearly has been a void of communication and leadership in that first 24 hours. I think communication has been better over this event that we've seen over the last 24 hours, which has been good. We have a lot to learn about stepping up our emergency management processes here in New Zealand. I've been out and about across the whole of Auckland over the last, since it first happened, and I can just tell you it's incredibly inspiring. You're seeing New Zealanders at their absolute best. What you're seeing here in this Ranui Community Centre is a church coming together with local leaders and volunteers and strangers, all stepping in to offer bedding and sleeping and food and support to their local fellow New Zealanders. And so, it's been pretty special to be able to see those community hubs in action. And they're often sparked by a church or a local board or a school principal that's opened up and got things moving as well. That's great. But we also do need to go back and look at our emergency management processes. I lived in America for a long time, and what I saw when we had extreme hurricane events or snow weather warnings was there was lots of advance notice, states of emergency declared really early, people had time to prepare, and we're going to have to get better at that side of it, and I hope we can learn from this. Okay. Can I say, guys, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for coming out. I really appreciate what you're doing and covering the events. This centre here at Ranui is absolutely fantastic. You've seen it laid out in the way that you have, with really great sleeping areas, people volunteering mattresses. You've seen it with people stepping up and volunteering food, chefs in here cooking hot meals tonight. I am so proud of the people here and the way they've come together, and total strangers have come and supported each other. It's been pretty special to see, so appreciate your time today. Yeah.
I'm sure you read the stories about Mayor Wayne Brown and his dealings with journalists. I mean, what do you make of his conduct and his communication?
Oh, look, it's not really for me to comment. That's ultimately a decision for him to comment on his own leadership and or behaviour. From my perspective, I think you have a really important role. We can't get our messages out unless you deliver them to the people that are listening and watching. So, I appreciate what you're doing.
So is he really fit for the role?
Again, not for me to comment. There'll be a time for us to do a full after-action review. I think exploring, central government agency responses as well as local government agency responses, and arguably how the two interfaced. What I'm pleased about is to see that the Ministry of Education has got on board with our idea to say, look, local school principals are in the best position to make decisions about whether their schools are opened or closed. At a time, particularly in Auckland, where our kids have lost so much education and are so far behind, they need to be in school. And so if it's good today to go to school, we go to school. And we don't need a blanket ban for 7 days as we were experiencing. Cool. All right, guys, have a great day. Take care.
Thank you.